Okay, I'm Harish. I'm here with my lovely girlfriend Olivia,
Hello.
and today we're talking about sex robots. Um, what is it? What is your idea of sex robots
Sex
without me saying anything?
sex robots?
Yeah.
I feel like they're newer and I feel like they're not really used here,
Mm.
but maybe like overseas. And I don't know, they're really it's kind of
Would you support the use of sex robots anywhere?
anywhere?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
I feel like I guess it wouldn't be like harming society. I feel like it might harm people like on an individual level,
Mm.
if they're struggling to make connections with people in real life, and it might, you know, discourage those people from trying to connect with people, if they can have their needs met without having to actually engage with other people. So, to me, maybe it's like a social crutch for people.
Mm.
But then it's like, I feel like nobody really cares if people are using sex robots.
No.
So I don't know.
Well, it's everything you brought up is actually stuff we've talked about in class and stuff I wanted to dive deeper into with
Yeah.
you today. So first, this kind of goes along with what I just asked you, but what do you think personally? Do you think robots are moral or immoral? Like, what positives or negatives do you think come with using them in society and allowing them to be used?
Moral or immoral?
Because there's laws that prevent things like, you know, having sex with animals.
Yeah.
Hold on. All right. So the question was, do you think it's immoral to support the rights, you could say, of having sex with robots? Because I know for things like having sex with animals, that's illegal because of bestiality laws, or like having sex with people who aren't capable of understanding what sex means, like
Yeah.
underdeveloped children. You
Yeah.
cannot have sex with children.
Right.
That's against the law. What do you think is the morality of that when it comes to robots? Because for both of those previous things which we've talked about in class, those like sort of laws exist because we deem those things as immoral in our society. Like in other
Right.
countries and places, it might be commonplace, but we specify laws that prevent that from happening. So
Well, I think it's kind of similar to there being like AI chatbots that are programmed to be or like to engage in like sexual conversation.
Yeah.
In which case, like, it's not an actual being of any kind. So, like, with like a robot, it's similar, but I feel like there's just potential for that to go wrong because I forget where, but there was like some case of people who had like AI girlfriends and like boyfriends on some site where they were like programmed to be able to have like sexual conversations, and then that company like disabled it, and then people were like really devastated and like suicidal
Oh my
because
God.
their significant others, like
It's
AI
dead.
significant others, are not engaging the way that they want them to, and like being distant, but like that's not really possible because they're not real. So it could be the same thing with a robot. Like you could form some like unnatural connection that's not reciprocated genuinely, and so I would say it's not moral, or I would say like it's not immoral, but it's potentially bad, and like just because we can do it doesn't mean we should.
Do you think if we lived in a society where things like this already exist,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
In like Asia, right?
Asia, like here even, there's like sex dolls that have AI integrated into them, so they like
gross.
move and
Yeah, that's
yeah.
disgusting.
And they
So
like,
gross.
you know how you can ask like Siri a question and it'll respond.
Yeah.
It's like that, but it like you can ask it freaky questions and it responds with like freaky answers. And it's all like the thing is like these robots that exist are pre-programmed to communicate in that way.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the morality or immorality of that,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a piece of that question where it's like, oh, can the robot, if the robot isn't designed to do that, if the robot is just designed to be a member of society, would it be moral to like ask it intimate questions like you would ask a partner, or like form a connection with it like you would a partner, like a human partner, you know? Do you think robots would be able to consent in a society where they're able to, you know, have the same rights and abilities that we do? And if they do you think that is something that's like the same level of consent as a human being consenting with another human being?
Well, that okay. Well, like to me, at the heart of that is like differences in worldview and religion. So obviously, if you think that what separate like the most advanced robot, the most advanced like human like robot is lacking a soul, and so there's like an intrinsic value to humans for some people that robots don't have. And so I don't know. You could argue like so many different things depending on who you are. I would say like I still have some like some like hints of religion in my head when I'm thinking about that, because there's something always separating humans from robots, like always. And so no, like I don't think robots are able to consent with feeling behind it. You know, like we have like lived an entire life and felt so many emotions and experiences that shape the way we think, and like I guess you could call that programming for sure, but like it's just different than like being programmed by a human.
Yeah.
Like synthetically almost. So like
would you say that even if like the robot is programmed to be able to learn and evolve and do like become a individual person the same way that humans are, that it would still be immoral because humans created that process?
It's at the hands of another human, and there's no unbiased way to create something like that. Like there's always going to be some interest or disinterest from the person that made it, or like the group of people that programmed it or something. Like it can't organically come up with its own opinions, and that I think is what's, you know, like it regurgitates what you tell it. And so like if it's consenting or not consenting, that is informed through somebody else always. Like it's never gonna just think on its own. So that I think is it. Like it can make its own decisions, but it can't really. Like it can come like very close, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I'm not a programmer, so I don't know the extent to which we can do that. Yeah.
I think we went over this one example in class of like a show where like AI robots existed that are just played by people. And like there was this, I think there was like a party and a bunch of dudes were like talking to this AI girl, and this other girl was like watching them talk, and they were like taking the robot against its will like upstairs to like a room, you know, like all talking about like engaging in sexual activity with the robot, and the robot was not consenting to it.
Right.
But all the dudes were like, oh, it's just a robot, you know, we can just you know,
well,
do whatever.
That's the potential that I'm talking about with like, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it, because people will always be people, and whatever, like the worst things that could probably happen will happen, and we find a way to kind of just muddy everything. Like we just ruin everything.
Like there will always be bad people.
Yeah. And it was, I can't remember who like a long, long time ago, had the first like mock-ups of a submarine. It was someone major, I don't remember, but like for a long time he knew exactly how he would make it, and he didn't publish it or do anything with it because he was like, we don't.
Not meant to be able to
No,
do
and
so.
it's like when you and I talk about it all the time. Like you're like, we need to explore the sea and space, and I'm thinking that we don't.
Yeah.
Like we don't like have to do things that we know are possible. So
Yeah.
like there will always be ways to misuse that sort of thing. And like even like there was this app that women could use to like track each other on Uber and Lyft. And initially everybody was like, that's such a great idea, but like anybody can download it and figure out where women are going. Like there's just no way out.
Yeah.
And so
People will always misuse things.
yeah.
No matter how.
Yeah. And like the robot, didn't consent to, but that speaks more to human nature than to like the utility of the robot. Like I don't think, but you could use that to say like we shouldn't make it.
Yeah. Because
it reinforces those ideas of like, because that's how those people would treat others in real life, like other human beings, like so
that actually leads into my next question. I was going to ask you, with the existence of people who already misuse other people in real life, do you think that allowing them to
emboldens them to do it more?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Like it wouldn't.
You could say like, oh, they can get their
urges
out on something, but that doesn't like fix the problem. You know? Like
they're not going cold turkey.
That's
they're
like
still
vaping
engaging
instead of smoking. Like it's just not. It doesn't reach like the core of the problem.
Yeah.
And you want to like get rid of the urges and not find a different place to put the urges. Like and like that's. Yeah, I don't think it's good for those types of people. Like that to me is like the same thing as giving a pedophile like a fake child robot.
Yeah.
Like
that's a heavy question. That's a heavy possibility.
That's the same to me. Like he's getting, some satisfaction from something quote unquote fake instead of something real, but that doesn't fix it.
Yeah.
Like so so for people who are like really lonely or something like that, like I don't even think it's good for them. You have to know how to deal with your loneliness or fix it without buying a sex robot.
Yeah.
So like I don't think it's good for those people who even though it like steers people away from doing worse things, that doesn't mean it's good.
Just because they're not harming another human doesn't mean their behaviors. Yeah. Because they're still. I would agree with you on that.
It doesn't have to be obviously bad for it to be bad. Like I think people like it just because it doesn't harm society, like it's good, but that doesn't mean it's good. Like it's still bad.
Yeah.
On an individual level. So yeah.
Do you think there's any positives to having not just like sex robots, but like robots that are able to? Well, I guess in the context of the question, do you think there's any possibility that there's any positives to having sex robots like available in society?
Any positives?
No.
No, I don't think there are any positives. I think we were never meant to have any connection outside of each other and nature. And I think anything outside of that is not beneficial. And you could say that it's beneficial for like technology and the economy and so many different things, but like I don't agree that it ultimately benefits. So maybe like it helps advancement, but like does advancement help us? I don't know.
The advancement.
But then it's like branching off into like crazy philosophical things. But no, I don't think there are any positives to having sex robots. 0.
Fair. Do you think if like they were implemented in society and there's nothing you could do about it, how do you think society would change?
Sex robots or just like robots?
Sex robots.
How do I think society would change?
How do you think like relationships between people, relationships between...
Oh, well, to be honest, I really don't think it would be widely adopted. I think if people are using sex robots, they're in the trenches
Mm-hmm.
of life.
Yeah.
And I think even some of the loneliest people wouldn't turn to like a
A robot.
nuts and bolts.
But I know you say people wouldn't turn to like nuts and bolts, but what if in this like perfect society, well, not perfect, different society,
Whoa.
like robots were able to very closely resemble human beings, but you still have to go through the process of like purchasing them or ordering them, or you
I
know.
still think that people would not do that.
Yeah.
Most people.
Yep.
Because obviously there's demand for those now,
Mm-hmm.
But I think there would have to be worse like social conditions for more people to turn to that. I don't know.
For it to become like a norm.
A norm. I don't think it will ever be a norm.
Mm.
I think there's so many people on Earth. I can just imagine like if we can relate it to like college. If there was some group of people, you know,
Sex robot club.
sex robot club or like, you know, like
Secret
you know how
robotics
like
team.
frats are viewed by. You know, frats have like a certain image, and so like
they've kind of sectioned themselves into like a caricature group
Yeah.
where like they're obnoxious, like all of these things. Like they would be like social pariahs, like sex, like oh yeah, like they use sex robots, like ew, and like I feel like they'd be sort of outcast in some way, and I think that is true for like most places and like countries. But most confident I can, like in America, like come on, if there's a certain group of people like, or a certain amount of people like using sex robots or like advocating for the use of it or like legalization or you know, people would be like laughed at.
Imagine it becomes like a political issue, and then the new candidate is garnering it. One's in support of sex robots, one's against.
Or one is like against sex robots and then like gets exposed for like ordering a sex robot from Korea or something.
Yeah.
That's my thought. I don't think it would ever be commonly supported or like widely supported. It would always be like taboo, I feel like.
Because it is now. That's why it's a topic.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's not legal. There's no... I mean, I don't really think they're like out in use in the world like that yet. But I think if they become like more widespread and they become like available on the market where you don't have to like go and search for them, I think it will present like a new issue that involves like people figuring it out like in the court system, in the justice system, laws, like whether it's useful or not. I mean, when AI became like widespread in society and people started creating like deep fakes of each other, new laws had to be created about that, you know?
Right, but AI is still widely accepted now.
That is, but like deep fakes are
illegal.
like making deep fake porn of people is illegal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same process would be, sex robots would be thrown through the same process where we as a society would have to decide whether or not it's okay to use them or not.
Well, the government would decide, and the government would have to evaluate how they can benefit from it, and politicians would have to evaluate how they can benefit from it, and in the grand scheme of things, like, politicians make decisions that will get them reelected, and they don't really make decisions based on what they think is right. They make decisions based on what their supporters want.
Yeah.
So I think
if
court decisions would not court, like Congress decisions would reflect like what we want. But that depends on the presidency and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that in America that would be acceptable.
Yeah.
That's my guess. Especially since I feel like in my head, is that more of an Eastern thing? Sex robots?
I mean, I wouldn't know.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. But yeah.
I think like places like Japan and stuff, they get creative with like
they get creative
with like sexual toys and stuff, just because like societies that are more suppressed in their sexuality tend to like go out of their way to like discreetly get into all this crazy stuff.
But it's born out of
That suppression.
suppression.
Yeah.
So continuing that suppression,
Hmm.
like with the robot. You see,
I
it's
think
like a self-perpetuating
yeah.
solution. Like it's not a solution.
The more you isolate yourself, the more you rely on it, which is the same
Yeah.
thing I think with any like addiction.
Yeah, that's
You
what I was
know?
gonna say. Like drugs or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, they're probably like so expensive.
Yeah.
That's like really random, but
Yeah.
they're probably so expensive.
I looked up because we've talked about the presence of them like in society already, and I
Yeah.
looked up and they're expensive.
You look they're expensive.
Yeah.
I remember Cody and Noel did a video about how there's some facility in Japan or Korea or somewhere where you can go in like in a private room, but the rooms are in one common building,
Oh.
and they will like re-wash and sanitize these. Like, I know.
Wait in
It's
line
crazy.
for your turn. on
There's
it.
just like money and resources better spent. I'm like,
Rent a sex robot. That's crazy.
yeah, like I just there are bigger issues to
Yeah.
have like solutions to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's. I think we've thoroughly discussed whether or not sex robots would be accepted in society. The answer is no.
Yeah, the answer is definitely no.
Yeah. Well, thank you for discussing with me and exploring this topic. I know it's been uncomfortable, but
no, it's fun.
yeah, it's good to talk about stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye bye.